Well, good morning. Jim Sunderwirth here from the Swing. So good to be with you today. We're in Leviticus. It's a tough little book, but it's a great book because it talks about how God prepares his people for life. And that's what it's really all about. You see, the reason when God is so detailed about your life is because he loves you. He wants the best. Remember when it all started off, he said the first thing that in Leviticus, if you read that first chapter, it talks about sacrifice. It talks about that which is so important because life, let me read this to you. Chapter 17, verse 11 of Leviticus says this: for the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for yourselves. To make atonement, to be at one with God, it takes blood, because life is in the blood. And so they had to have the perfect sacrifice. You know, it takes commitment. If we're going to do something, we need to be committed all the way, and God wanted to be us to be committed to him. And the way we would do that is to follow and obey his instructions, because we know he loves us and wants the best for us. So that's a very, very important thing. If we're going to be at one with God, we must follow his instructions. And so he said there must be sacrifice, and so we do that because it points to Jesus Christ. We've talked about this many times. The worshipers are giving sacrifice, and the thing is, he told them, if you'll read along in there, he tells them that it cannot be, it has to come from their herd. It has to come from their flocks, whatever it is they own, because it must cost them something. They can't go get some wild animal out there and bring it in. No, it's from their flock, and it's the best of their flock. You know, it's such an important thing to me. I believe that we should do our best for Christ. I believe we should do our best for God. We should give our best. We should look our best. We should talk our best. We should live our best. Why? Because he's done so much for us, and we're going to spend eternity with him, and he's very meticulous. He's a wonderful God. He loves us, and he wants the best for our lives, of course. So in other words, the main thing is that we sacrifice according to his will. Now, it takes something. It takes commitment. Luke the 9th chapter, it talks, I want to go there because it talks about three men, and in Luke it talks about three guys that said, well, I want to follow you, Jesus. And in Luke the 9th chapter, Jesus looked at him and said, now wait. Now it's going to take faith. I mean, it's going to take commitment, faith. It's going to take listening and obedience. But I want to tell you something. He said, foxes have holes, places birds have their nest, but Jesus has no place to lay his head. He said, in other words, it's going to take faith. And it's going to take faith and obedience to follow me. And so it was important that he knew that, and those people knew it. And so he said, look, come after me. If you're going to come after me, he said, you may not know the future, but you've got to learn to trust me. And then there was another one who came along, and it says, then another one said, I want to follow you, but he said, Lord, let me first go bury my father. And Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. Whoa, what? What do you mean, let the dead bury the dead? But you go and preach the kingdom of God. Well, what did he mean by that? That's kind of a hard saying, don't you say? I mean, that's a sacrifice right there, isn't it? It's a sacrifice, not being able to bury your father. Well, back in that tradition, if somebody passed away, they had to bury him that day. There was no way they had to bury him that day. That was the way it was supposed to be. So he was saying, oh, now I want to follow you, but I'm going to go back and wait till my father dies, and then I'll bury him, and then I'll come follow you. No procrastination, no way. You're going to have to trust, and you have to obey today. What are you going to do today? Are you going to trust today? Trust him and say, listen, I may not understand everything, but I trust you because you know the first, the last, you know everything. And number two, I'm going to do it now. Don't procrastinate. Don't put off to tomorrow what you should be doing today. And then there was another one who said, Lord, I will follow you, but let me first go and bid farewell to the people in my house. And Jesus said, no one having put his hand to the plow looking back is fit for the kingdom of heaven. No, so see, this one was looking back. He was looking back at the past. I want to go back for a little bit and make sure this is what I want to do. And Jesus said, no, look, you got to trust me. You got to trust me. And number two, you got to obey me now. Obey every day. It's an obey today. And then it's not looking back. We're not going to go forward looking back. If a farmer put his hand to the plow and looked back, his row would be crooked. He would meander through the field. Jesus said, look, don't put your hand to the plow and look back. You look with me, you go with me. It's total commitment. Total commitment. That's what it's really all about. Sacrifice means total commitment. It means trust, obey now, and go to the future. And look to the future and say, I'm not looking back. I'm going all the way. Okay? That's what we need to do. That's a little bit about Leviticus on sacrifice. See ya.